Good afternoon, good evening, guys. So I recently did a video about foreigner identification cards in Rwanda. What they are, how you get one, and why they're useful. And at the bottom of that video, I received a comment from Aramaskillik 1600. Now, I hope I've pronounced that right. But basically, the question was, what about doing a post on driver's licenses? When you are in Rwanda for more than a year, I understand that you need a Rwandan driving license. Now, they're absolutely correct. You can drive for the first year on your driving license from whichever country you come from, but after 12 months, you're supposed to apply for a conversion license, so an actual Rwandan driving license. And so I read that and I went, oh, thanks, Aramaskillik, that's a great idea for a video. And then I realised that I've actually never done that. And so in making this video, I'm potentially incriminating myself. But no, the reason that I never got one is because I don't drive in Rwanda. So I never got a car here because they are really expensive. Not only second-hand ones to buy are very expensive, but just keeping them on the road and maintaining them, I wouldn't use it often enough to make it worthwhile. So I'm a moto gal. I basically go everywhere on public motorbike. But for people who have been watching this channel for a while, you will know that at the end of last year, very beginning of this year, I was toying with the idea about learning to ride motorbikes. And I've actually just started doing that again. So my friends lent me a bike again, a semi-automatic, and I'm using it to go and visit my cat at the vet's. And so really, I should have a Rwandan driving license. So thank you, Aramaskillik. Now is as good a time as any to apply. So I thought we'd go through the application process together and just see what happens. Another reason that a lot of people kind of shy away from it is because it is 50,000 francs, so about $40 to pay for that conversion, which seems a bit kind of weird because like my British driving license and my Rwandan identity card are pretty much identical. They're the same size, the same plastic. My identity card is green, my driving license is red, and my identity card cost me 5,000 francs. So you're kind of thinking 5,000 francs for an identity card, but 50,000 francs for a driving license? But looking into it a bit further, it turns out that actually that is the price of a Rwandan driving license. So in Rwanda, you can take your test from age 18 and you pay 10,000 francs for your provisional license, which lasts for 2 years. And within that 2 years, you can then sit your final driving test, your proper driving test, and then you pay 50,000 francs for, they call it a definitive driving license. So, you know, your proper driving license. So it's the same price as it is for Rwandans. So yeah, I am going to go ahead with it and give it a go. I don't think that I have to resit any driving test for this. I think I just need to fill out the forms and send it in and pay the money, and hopefully I'll get my Rwandan driving license. So let's give it a go. Hi guys, couple of quick edits here. So when I first started out with this video, I thought it would be a really easy process. It turned into a complete marathon. So if you want to come along for the ride, there are some entertaining moments, but I fully understand if you just want the quick how-to guide. If you'd like to do that, I've left a timestamp in the video information below and you can just click on that. The other quick edit is that whilst I was researching for this video, I was contacted by a French lady who told me that she was asked to resit both her theory and her practical test in order to switch her driving licence. So that might be something to consider before going ahead with this. Just before we jump into the forms, I wanted to show you this cool website that I came across, which compares different driving tests around the world. It's got this list here that tells you the hardest places to pass your test and the easiest. So apparently Burundi is a really easy place to pass your driving test if you want to pop down there. Uganda, and the difficult ones seem to be mostly in the Asian countries, and France and Russia, which for some reason surprises me. So UK is not among the hardest to pass. And then you come down here and you can click on different countries and it will tell you what is required to pass your driving test and also how much it costs over here. So that's the UK information on the left. And clicking on Rwanda, it's actually got this slightly wrong because it says it only costs 10,000 for your driving test, but that's for your provisional license. So I don't know. I don't know if that's how much it costs for the practical test. If anybody knows, drop it in the comments below. But the part that I really liked about this is at the bottom, it's got some interesting fun facts about driving tests around the world. So in Lesotho, it's got, due to the uneven road surfaces, many learners take their test in a 4x4. I would love to take my test in a 4x4. I want to do rally driving. I want my practical test to be off-road. And then it says here in Kenya, driving tests in Kenya feature a toy car and tabletop board, which learners must navigate around to demonstrate road policy awareness. Guys, if you're in Kenya, tell me about this. Is that real or is that like made up? I want to know. So on with the application. I'll leave a link below, but there's a page that's part of the National Police website, which has exchanging a foreign driving license on it. And here it explains that after 12 months, you do need to get a Rwandan driving license. Now, in order to do this, we will need to fill out an application form, present a copy of proof of identity, for which you're going to need your national identity card, and provide a copy of your valid current driving license. And then we send it all off to the police email address. So we need to download the driver's license exchange form. I'm going to save this to my computer. Basically, it needs my first name, last name, telephone number, email address, my national ID residency card, see my video about that, date of birth, gender, last date of entry into Rwanda. And then it's asking me about my current driving license, my foreign driving license, expiry date. So this is where things got tricky. The form wasn't actually a PDF form. You couldn't click on any of the boxes to fill them out. I ended up copy-pasting it into Publisher and adding my own text boxes. Honestly, you need a degree in computing around here to get most forms filled out. Then I printed it as a PDF and took photographs of my ID and driver's license. So it says here, after sending the required documents, an officer will reach you within 5 business days. But providing that they approve my application, then I should be able to pay for it and apply through the Arembo service online. And once I've paid, it should take 10 days to get my license. So, I don't know. Let's send everything into the email address. Okay, so I've got my email together. I've attached a copy of the application form and a copy of my ID and driving license as requested. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use Boomerang to send this on Monday morning, because it's currently the weekend, and I think if I send it now, it's just going to get totally lost in the ether. Nobody's going to see it. It might get lost and never read. So if I send it at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, it's more likely to hit the top of the to-do list that day. So let's give that a go. All right, so I'll let you know how it goes. Hi guys, so it's now been 7 days and I have heard nothing. This doesn't surprise me. It's really, really common here that online systems just don't work. It's kind of a 50-50 roll of the dice. You submit something, maybe you'll hear back, maybe you won't. Now, I've asked around in some expat forums and people say if you actually go down to the driving licensing agency, you can get it done in person pretty quickly. I need to build up the strength to go and do that. I was just hoping that I could just do a little click, click, click and everything would be neatly taken care of online. But Rwanda is still very, very much a face-to-face culture. It's sort of, why send an email when you can have a 3-hour meeting about it? If you go down and do something in person, usually it will eventually get done. But if you try to do things online, I'm not always sure that it's a problem with the actual online system, though sometimes the tech is very ropey, but A lot of the times I think it's when it gets to the other end and then a person actually has to deal with it, because we all know what it's like to suffer from like electronic messaging fatigue and email overload. But I think there's an extra level of that in a country where things are usually done face to face, because if somebody's not standing over you personally making sure something's being done, then it doesn't usually get done. So I will probably end up having to get on my bike and go down to the licensing agency and deal with it in person, but I'm not quite ready to give up just yet. You know, I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm gonna just send a quick follow-up email saying, hi, on your website it said I'd hear back in 5 days. Just wondering how this is going, and just give it one more chance. And if I hear nothing again for another 5 days, then I will take a few hours out of my day and go and do it in person. It has been 14 days since my last confession, since my last update. Now, to be fair, during that period we went through Christmas and New Year, but even factoring in for those, it has been 14 working days since my last update. And spoiler alert, didn't get any reply at all. Asking around, different people are saying different things. I said, where do I go to get this? Because I was thinking like the vehicle licensing agency. But a friend was saying, no, it's Mohima police station. But looking at the website, it seemed to suggest you needed permission from your local police station. So I don't know if I have to drive all the way over to Mohima on the other side of town, or if I can just pop down to my local Kachiru police station and try and get it done. So instead of wasting a whole day trying to figure this out, I decided to text my local friendly policeman. If you live in Rwanda for any length of time, guaranteed you're going to end up with direct contacts for a lot of the policemen in your area. Not because of crime. In my case, it was just about noise complaints. But yeah, they're usually very friendly and quite informative. So I dropped him a line and he gave me the number of the person that I needed to WhatsApp who was in charge of licensing. And you often find this is if you have a direct contact to somebody in charge of something, you usually get things done a lot faster. I WhatsApped him about a couple of hours ago, so I'm just waiting to see if he replies. Let's see how we get this done. So it's been a couple of days now, and the licensing guy, if that was his number, he hasn't replied. I went back to the website and at the bottom I found a phone number for the licensing agency, and I thought, well, I'll give them a call. That's something I don't usually do because my Kinyarwanda is really bad and often people are not very confident on the phone in English. And unfortunately it did turn into one of those conversations where it's like, hello, is this the licensing agency? And it's sort of, what? Licensing agency? The phone reception? What? Huh? What? Yeah, so that didn't get me anywhere. So instead, I went to the Font of All Human Knowledge, which is the Rwandan Expats Forum. And I asked in there, has anybody managed to do this recently? And quite a few people came back and said yes. There's a place at Busanze, which is the licensing agency, and you drive over there and you take a list of stuff with you and they will do it for you at the licensing agency. So I looked that up and I was a little bit concerned because it looks like it's 27 minutes away, so that's about an hour's round trip. And the roads didn't look great from the photograph. Now, my friend Suzanne said that actually the roads are fine now, they've paved them. And so I was all set to go this morning, but I woke up and the sky is really overcast. It looks like it's going to turn into a very, very rainy afternoon. And what I don't want to do is to get on my bike, get there and get stuck there. I'm going to try one more time. Another friend on there called Mutada, he actually said that what you can do is you can email everything in. And again, he gave me the list. It's a bit more extensive than the first list that I read. But you'll notice it's a different email address. So it's still the National Police, but it's a different email address. So I am holding out zero hope for this. I have got no expectation that this is going to work at all. But as it's going to be raining this afternoon, so I don't think I can really drive over to Besançon, I'm going to give it one more go, and I'm going to email what I emailed to the last place to this place and see if they respond. But this is really common here. You know, even really basic government services, you're constantly sort of grasping around trying to find anybody who's done it, anybody who knows how it works. You try the online method and it doesn't get you anywhere. And then you like have 10 different people saying, oh yes, I managed to do it, but they've each got a different story of how they got there. So we're going to keep at it, and I'm hoping that by the end of this video I'm going to have a definitive answer for you about how to get this done. So crazy news, after half an hour I did indeed get a response, but this was the response. We have received your request and you will receive an answer in the next few days. But in order to follow up on your request, you will call this number after 2 days. Thanks. What does that even mean? Am I getting a response from them? Or do I need to call them in 2 days to get a response? It is as clear as mud. What I'm getting from this is that they might contact me in a few days, but if I haven't heard anything, I should call them in 2 days. I don't know. That's what I'm going to go with. I feel that on a sunny day I might just have to get on my bike and do that grand tour to go and get it. Morning guys, so I've decided just to bite the bullet, get on my bike, drive over there. It looks like it's brightening up a bit at the moment. It does say that it's going to rain. I hope it holds off. I'm taking everything with me. So I'm taking my ID card, I'm taking my British driving licence, I'm taking a photocopy of my British driving licence, I'm taking my passport, I'm taking a towel and a splash mac with me just in case it does pee it down. So yeah, let's just go and try and get this done. If you've made it to the end of this video, well done. It's been quite a journey. Yesterday I got on my bike and I did the whole round trip to the licensing agency to try to exchange my British license for a Rwandan one, and that didn't go well. But there was an upside to this because I learnt that actually I probably don't need to do this. So I'm just going to quickly explain. If you absolutely really want to get yourself a Rwandan driving license, then what you need to do really is physically go to the licensing agency. The directions are pretty simple. It's not a hard place to find. You go in and you go into the car park and turn right, and in front of you is a big new building with blue glass windows. You go into that building. Now there aren't any signs or anything, but what you need to do is to go to the elevator at the far end and up to the second floor. And when you get to the second floor, you just take a right and you'll end up in an office where somebody will help you to do this. Now, on the website, when I was first applying online, all those many days ago, it said that all I needed to send in was proof of identification and, you know, a copy of my driving license. Now, as with anything here, that was absolutely not enough. So whenever you think that you've got everything that you need more. So basically I got there and the guy was actually really friendly. All of the staff there were really helpful. When I first got there, I didn't know that I had to go upstairs and there's no signposts. So I saw a group of people sitting there waiting at a desk. So I just went and sat with them thinking, oh, this is probably where I need to be. And a really nice lady came over and said, no, you need to be upstairs. That was fine. I got upstairs and a really nice gentleman helped me through the process. So all of the staff there I found to be really friendly. It's not them at all. It is the system that is shockingly bad. So I sat down and he actually said, oh, I've got your application here. And next to him was a huge pile of emailed applications. But he said, you're missing a lot of things. And I said, well, I sent in everything it told me to send in on the website. And he said, no, you need some other things. And I was like, okay, what do we need to get this done? So if you're absolutely certain that you want to do this, then drive over there, go to the second floor, go into the right office and take with you your national identification card, your passport with your visa in it, a couple of passport-sized photographs. Now, if you don't have those, there's a little place next to the entrance gate that can take the photographs for you. But it didn't say that I needed those on the website. It didn't even say that I needed those on the form that I filled out. And the funny thing is, I apparently didn't even need the form. You also need to take with you a letter asking to exchange your license. Now, in Rwanda, this practice is ubiquitous. For absolutely anything you need to do ever, you have to physically write a letter and send it in. And the stupid mistake that I made is I assumed that my email would be accepted as my letter, because the email is, Dear Sir, Madam, please can I exchange my driving licence for a Rwandan one? Thank you very much. But no, because apparently the guy in the office who prints out the attachments on your email doesn't print out the email itself. So what you have to do is then write the exact same thing in a PDF and attach the PDF and send that with everything. Otherwise it doesn't get printed out and it's not considered to be your official letter. Whew, okay, welcome to the digital age. So you need to do all of that. And on top of this, what I would suggest you do is not only take the original ID, passport, visa, whatever, also photocopy these things, because although they wanted to look at the originals, they then told me that what they needed were photocopies of those originals. Now, you kind of expect that they would just have a photocopy machine next to them and they would photocopy it and put it all together and deal with it. No, it's up to you to wander around the building, find the photocopy machine and photocopy all of those things yourself. So save yourself some time, take the originals, also take some photocopies. Right, if you really want to do it, that's what you got to do. And then I believe if you get through all of that, then they're going to charge you 50,000. You probably pay that through a Rembo. Don't know. Didn't get that far. Didn't get that far because I didn't have my letter on me, and also because for the first time ever, he actually noticed that my ID was out of date. Now, I've talked about ID cards before, and I've talked about how nobody ever checks the date on them. He did. And he said, no, you have to get this up to date first. You need to apply to immigration to get this updated. And I'm sitting there thinking, I have applied to immigration. I paid immigration for my new identity card and I never got it. And it's kind of funny because last year when I applied for my updated identification card, I actually sent a cheeky little tweet to Irembo saying, you've lost my application, haven't you? And they come back saying, no, we haven't lost it. What an accusation to make. They lost it. They must have lost it because, you know, I never got it, and at least I never got any notification. So I was sitting there thinking, you know what, I'm not gonna go and chase this up because one, I've already paid for it, and I know how it goes with Remo is they kind of go, oh no, you have to make another application, then you have to pay again. And also, I've already spent a month basically chasing around trying to get this driving license. I'm not going to go and spend any more days of my life chasing, you know, an identity card that nobody else ever has to see. So, you know, I just thought, oh, yeah, no. So I got back on my bike and I came home. But at least I came home with the information of where you go to get it done and what you need to take if you do want to get it done. Oh, we just had a little bit of a power cut there. But I also got another really fascinating piece of information, which I didn't know before. And that piece of information was given to me by the gentleman who was helping me. And he said that actually you can drive on your foreign driving license for up to 12 months, which everybody knows. But he said from the date you last entered the country. That was new information to me. And I only just re-entered the country a few months ago because I went travelling. So technically speaking, my foreign driving licence is valid again from the time that I re-entered the country. So providing that you leave Rwanda once a year, I don't know, go on holiday, go shopping in Nairobi, I don't know, hop over the border, go to Lake Bunyoni for a weekend and come back, then your foreign driving licence is always valid. I did also ask him, as we were sitting there face to face, I said, so what happens if you continue driving on a foreign licence after 12 months? I said, you know, what's the penalty? And he sort of looked at me and didn't quite get the question. So, you know, I asked it again. And he just sort of said, well, he said, you know, it's better to have a Rwandan licence. But he didn't really seem to have an answer for what happens if you keep driving on a foreign licence. And I don't know anybody who's really been stopped over this. I don't know anybody who, you know, somebody has been hassled about it or fined for it. I get the impression that foreigners driving on a foreign licence are not a top priority for Rwandan police force. I think maybe it's an issue if you get into an accident, I don't know, but I get the impression that, you know, penalising foreigners for driving on a foreign licence after 12 months is not really something that Rwanda police force are channeling their time and energy into. You know, which you wouldn't really expect them to. So yeah, I don't know. I've never known anybody to have an issue after those 12 months. If you have, or you know somebody who has, it would be very interesting to hear about that. But, you know, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving any legal advice here. But the conclusion that I came to was that trying to exchange your licence is pretty much impossible to do just online. Going over there is a faff. And if you leave Rwanda and come back again, then your foreign licence is fine. That is the gist of what I took away from that. So I am not personally going to pursue this any further. I don't feel like it's a top priority. If you think differently, or you know something that I don't, please leave it in the comments below, because you're always hearing different things from different places and different people. But there we go. So Aramaskillik, thank you for your question. I hope this has helped to answer it, and please never ask me anything again.